Today's lesson is called The Death of a Glacier. Hello everyone, my name is Jeff.
I'm Roger, and again we're talking about glaciers in today's program. Last time we talked about the death of a specific glacier in Iceland, Okajökull, and today we're going to talk about some glaciers in other parts of the world that are causing problems, and we should be concerned about them.
Yes, everyone, the name of our lesson is The Death of a Glacier, okay? And the most important part of our lesson today is this idea that the glaciers around the world are dying. Now, a really great example of this is Okajökull. And why is this particular glacier so important? Is it the most important glacier on planet Earth? No, but people in Iceland are handling the death of this glacier in a way that I think is really evocative and also important. They are taking this very seriously. The loss of this glacier has been a big deal for them, and they actually erected a plaque on the site of this glacier, or where that glacier used to be, and they held a funeral for this glacier. So it's important that we, like the Icelandic people there, also take seriously the loss of these glaciers. And yes, it's not only happening in Iceland, okay? But maybe the fact that the people of Iceland has shown this, or have taken this so seriously, I should say, people around the world like us will take the loss of glaciers seriously as well. Anyways, today we will be talking about other glaciers around the world, all of which are dying. Anyways, folks, with that, it's time for us to take a short break, but don't go away. We'll be right back after this.
Iceland isn't the only country losing ice. Greenland's huge ice sheet appears to have melted a record amount in the past year, raising global sea levels by more than a millimeter. One glacier has thinned by 100 meters in the past 15 years, becoming shorter and exposing its ice to warmer temperatures at the lower altitude.
大家好，第一部分我们看到单字 millimeter 这个字是名词，指公厘、毫米。例如 This glass window is about 5 millimeters thick. 这片玻璃窗的厚度大约5公厘。接着我们看到名词 altitude 指海拔、海拔高度。例如 At such a high altitude, it was difficult to breathe on the mountain. 在如此高海拔的山上，呼吸是很困难的。或是 The plane is flying at an altitude of 1,000 meters. 飞机飞在海拔高度1000公尺的高空。
All right, everybody. Now, when they talk about glaciers melting and water levels in the world rising, we usually talk about some specific places like Iceland and Greenland and Antarctica. So, yes, we're going to talk about Greenland in today's program, which actually is not very far from Iceland. So, here in the first part of our lesson, the first sentence says, Iceland isn't the only country losing ice. Greenland's huge ice sheet appears to have melted a record amount in the past year, raising global sea levels by more than a millimeter. So, okay, we've got Iceland. They are losing ice, but Iceland isn't the only country losing ice. Greenland has this big ice sheet that has been melting as well. So here we've got this ice sheet, which I would say is probably a really, really big glacier, but an extra big glacier. It is so big, it is so vast, it is so wide that it looks like a huge sheet covering Greenland. So it's an ice sheet, and it seems to have melted a lot in the past year.
This melting ice sheet, okay? All that water is going to end up in the oceans, and it's going to result in the rising of sea levels. And apparently, it says here that global sea levels have been risen, or have been raised, I should say, by more than a millimeter because of this, which is significant. The oceans are very, very big to have an effect like this. It means that a whole lot of melting is going on as far as glaciers and ice sheets are concerned. And yes, the Greenland ice sheet there is huge. It's enormous. It's very big. If that all melts, we are in trouble. By the way, a millimeter, okay, that's a unit for measuring short distances, okay? There are 1,000 millimeters in 1 meter. Usually an adult man is between 1.5 and 2 meters tall. So if you take a meter and divide that by 1,000, you have a unit of measure for very short things called a millimeter. By the way, if you divide that meter by 100, you get a centimeter. And if you multiply that meter by 1,000, you get a kilometer or a kilometer.
You all know those abbreviations, mm, cm, m, km, etc. Those are all units of measurement. And in this particular case, we're talking about a millimeter, which isn't much, but if you talk about that covering the whole world, that is significant, and it's only going to raise farther. Now, one glacier has thinned by 100 meters in the past 15 years, becoming shorter and exposing its ice to warmer temperatures at the lower altitude. So in Greenland, of course, we've got this ice sheet, and I think it is made up of many smaller glaciers. So one glacier there has gotten really thin. Here the word thin is being used as a verb. As men grow older, their hair thins, for example, and you eventually go bald. But in this particular case, the ice has thinned. It's gotten thinner. It used to be thick, but now it's quite thin. It has thinned by 100 meters in the past 15 years. That means it's 100 meters thinner than it was before.
There you go. And it's also become shorter. And now that it's shorter and now that it is thinned out, it is now exposed. By the way, if you are exposed, you are put in harm's way. You are open to attack. You are vulnerable. So before, we had a glacier and it was very tall. It was up in higher altitudes due to its height. And yes, the higher you get away from the ocean, the higher you go up in the mountains, let's say, the colder it gets. So if you have a glacier that was very tall in the past, okay, well, it was never really exposed to high temperatures because it was very high up there in the atmosphere, okay? But now that it's started to melt, it has thinned out and also become shorter, okay? It is at a lower altitude.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson for today. Let's talk about some other glaciers that are at risk in other parts of the world now. Let's listen to the second part of our lesson right now.
Ice in other regions is at risk as well. The Himalayan and Hindu Kush mountain ranges contain not just Mount Everest, but also more ice than anywhere else outside of the poles. Melting glaciers here would affect the water supply across a huge region, impacting people in Afghanistan, India, China, and many other places. Around 1.65 billion people face flooding as the ice melts, at least until it runs out. Then, the dry season will mean drought.
第二部分我们看到片语 run out 表示用完耗尽，像是 It is very dangerous to run out of water when you're lost in the desert. 在沙漠中迷失，水又喝完时是非常危险的。或是 We've run out of juice, so you'll have to drink water instead. 我们的果汁喝完了，所以你得改喝水。另外，除了上面的意思，这个片语还有以下两种意思。第一，代表文件失效过期，例如 My gym membership will run out at the end of the month. 我的健身房会员资格将在月底到期。或是 My visa is going to run out next week, so I need to get it renewed. 我的签证下星期就过期，所以我得去重签。第二 run out 后面加 of 再加 place， 表示从某地赶走。举例来说An angry mob ran the brothers out of town. 生气的暴民把这对兄弟从镇上赶走。再来，我们看到单字 drought 这个字是名词，指旱灾、干旱。例如 The farmers dug a well so that they could water their crops during the drought. 农夫们挖了一口井，好在旱灾期间为他们的农作物浇水。
All right, Iceland is great. Greenland is good too. These are wonderful places, but bad things are happening there. They're losing their glaciers. But get this, ice in other regions is at risk as well. So there you go. The loss of glaciers and ice is not just confined to the wonderful islands of Iceland and Greenland. Yes, ice in other regions, in other parts of the world, is at risk as well.
Yep, ice is the subject there, so ice is at risk. Ice in other regions is at risk as well. Here, as well just means also. So you could say ice in other regions is also at risk. And let's talk about some other regions or other areas of the world where the ice is at risk. The Himalayan and Hindu Kush mountain ranges contain not just Mount Everest, but also more ice than anywhere else outside of the poles. The poles there, of course, refers to the North Pole and the South Pole. There is a lot of ice in those places, but besides those places, the area of the world that has the most ice is in this area between India, Nepal, and Tibet there. So we've got the Himalayan mountain range. That is a range of mountains, just like here in Taiwan. We've got the Central Mountain Range. Well, there we've got the Himalayan mountain range and the Hindu Kush mountain range. And this mountain range, or these mountain ranges, contain not only Mount Everest, but also lots of ice from the other mountains all around there. So Mount Everest, of course, is the highest mountain, the tallest mountain in the world. I think you call it Shengmufeng in Chinese. And yes, Mount Everest does have a lot of ice on it, but there are hundreds of other tall mountains in that area that are covered with ice as well.
Yes, these mountain ranges, they contain more ice than anywhere else outside of the poles. So if you take the North Pole and the South Pole out of the equation, okay, you can't find more ice anywhere else on planet Earth than in these mountain ranges. So, Okoyokul, okay, that glacier, the melting of that glacier, that was the wake-up call. We need to do something. Now, if that Greenland ice sheet totally melts, that's a disaster. Now, if we lose the ice here in these mountain ranges, that would be a catastrophe of monumental proportions. So yes, we know what we have to do. Only the people of the future will know if we did it. Anyways, melting glaciers here in these mountain ranges. Melting glaciers here would affect the water supply across a huge region, impacting people in Afghanistan, India, China, and many other places. Yes, this would be catastrophic to lose this ice. If we lost this ice, it would impact a whole lot of people in a whole lot of places.
Impact. Some people might say impact as the verb. I'm used to saying impact both as the noun and as the verb. That just means to have a very strong effect on something. You might be impacted by getting a bad grade in school that would really devastate your life. You would feel very depressed about that. Your parents would be very disappointed in you. You might be greatly impacted by that bad grade. Hopefully that won't happen to you. But of course, this will greatly affect people in various places in that part of the world, including Afghanistan, India, China. They will be deeply affected by all that water melting from those glaciers up in the Himalayas and the Hindu Kush mountain ranges.
You bet. Around 1.65 billion people face flooding as the ice melts, at least until it runs out. So there you go. All this ice will melt. It will lead to flooding, which is terrible. And yes, it'll flood and flood and flood, and then there will be no water left. Yes, this water will run out, okay? No more water will flow out of there. It will have run out. And that's bad as well. So you go from a state of perpetual flooding to perpetual drought because this water has run out.
Yep, that's not good. Run out. My goodness, we've run out of gas. We need to find a gas station right away. That's what run out means. That means you don't have that thing anymore. We're going to have to live under a bridge now. We've run out of money. And here it says in the last sentence, then the dry season will mean drought, which means no rain, crops die, people starve, and that's no good. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson. Let's go on and talk some more about the loss of glaciers in the final part.
Even if we restricted greenhouse gas emissions immediately, the damage has been done, and glaciers will continue to retreat. People living along Central Asian rivers need to start conserving water by farming more efficiently. Many of these areas are poor, relying on dirt-lined irrigation systems that leak water and have had no opportunity to update their farming methods. Now, everyone from poor rural farmers to wealthy city dwellers may have only a few decades to adapt.
第三部分我们看到名词 emission 指气体排放、热量散发、光线射出。举例来说 Reducing vehicle emissions is important for the environment. 减少运输工具的气体排放对环境非常重要。接着我们看到单字 conserve 这个字是动词，指节约、保存。例如 We need to start conserving our money or it won't last till the end of our trip. 我们得开始省钱，否则撑不到旅程结束。或是 Animals sleep much of the time in order to conserve energy. 动物们大部分的时间都在睡觉，以保存它们的体力。最后我们看到名词 dweller 指居民、居住者。我们可以说 As forest dwellers, chimpanzees are skilled at moving through trees. 作为森林的居民，黑猩猩擅长在树林间移动。
Wow, just thinking about the melting of that ice in the Himalayan and Hindu Kush mountain ranges there. Just thinking about the loss of this ice has had a very sobering effect on me. Right now, I'm extremely serious about global warming, and I'm also a little bit worried. Yes, if we lose the ice there in these mountain ranges, boy, are we ever in trouble as a species? Yes, if this ice disappears, it's going to impact around 1.65 billion people. It's going to lead to flooding and then drought. Oh, no. Anyways, let's go ahead and start wrapping up our article. I've got some more sobering news for everyone. Get this. Even if we restricted greenhouse gas emissions immediately, the damage has been done and glaciers will continue to retreat. Oh, no. Anyways, here we have the word emissions, greenhouse gas emissions. When you let off an emission or emit something, okay, you release that thing. Now, when we burn stuff like gasoline and coal, we create smoke and gases as a result of burning those fuels. These are greenhouse gas emissions. Emission is the noun, emit is the verb, and we also have the verb retreat to talk about here. If glaciers retreat, they continue to shrink or to fall back. Often this word is used when we're talking about armies. Losing army might retreat to safety because they've been routed on the battlefield, i.e. they leave the field of battle, they fall back and go somewhere else. But here, if these glaciers retreat, yes, they are falling back and becoming smaller. That's the idea here.
Yep, so I guess this sentence is telling us that it's probably too late, so I guess we better get used to a future without all those glaciers and rising sea levels. Now, people living along Central Asian rivers need to start conserving water by farming more efficiently. So these are some things we can do in the meantime. If you live along these rivers in Central Asia, then you can conserve water. You can save water. Don't use so much. Maybe store some on your land or something. And you need to farm more efficiently. Use less water and grow more crops.
Be careful with that water. Keep as much of it on hand as you can. Don't waste it. Anyways, many of these areas are poor, relying on dirt-lined irrigation systems that leak water and have had no opportunity to update their farming methods. So there you go. If you do want to conserve water, you've got to update your farming methods and your irrigation systems. But if you're dirt poor, that's going to be hard to do. Anyways, if you update something, okay, you bring it up to the present in some way, shape, or form. Let's say you have an operating system on your computer. You might need to update that so that you are now running the most current version of that particular software program.
Update your software or get an update. Update can also be a noun. So you might need to update your farming methods to be more efficient. and to conserve water. Now, everyone from poor rural farmers to wealthy city dwellers may have only a few decades to adapt. To adapt means to change to a situation. If you don't adapt, then you're probably going to suffer. Like Jeff and I, of course, are not from Taiwan, so when we moved here, we had to adapt to the different food, to the different weather, to the different customs, etc., etc. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. It's time now to listen to our Chinese teacher.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第二部分的第二句写到说 The Himalayan and Hindu Kush mountain ranges contain not just Mount Everest, but also more ice than anywhere else outside of the poles. 喜马拉雅和新都库什两座山脉不只有圣母峰，还有南北极之外，比其他任何地区都更多的冰。好，这个句子里面有3个文法重点。首先我们先来看 not just 什么什么 but also， 它的意思跟用法呢就跟 not only but also 是一样的，用来连接词性相同的字词、片语和子句，表达说不但怎么样，而且怎么样。举例来说，Potatoes are rich not just in vitamins and minerals, but also in fiber and protein. 马铃薯不但富含维他命和矿物质，也富含纤维和蛋白质。好，那接着我们要介绍的是比较级，表示最高级的意思。我们用形容词比较级来表达最怎么样怎样的语义时，可以用到下列的句型。第一种是用比较级或者是比较级加名词，加上 than， 加上 anything else、anywhere else 或者是 anyone else。 像课文就是这个用法，他写到说 contain 什么什么 more ice than anywhere else， 这表示说比其他任何地区有更多的冰，也就是说它有最多的冰。然后后面他才在接 outside of the poles 来说明他是把南北极排除在外。好，那么第二个句型我们可以用比较级或是比较级加名词，加上 than， 加上 any other，再加单数名词。举例来说 Tina is younger than any other student in the class. Tina 比班上的其他所有学生都还年轻。那么第三种句型是用比较级或者是比较级加名词，加上 than， 加上 all the other， 加上复数名词。像刚刚的例句可以改成Tina is younger than all the other students in the class. 好，注意哦，我们刚刚是用 any other student， student 是单数，然后这边是用 all the other students， students 是复数，要特别注意这两个句型的差异。好，另外当比较的对象呢是属于不同范围或是群体的时候呢，我们就不会加上 other 或者是 else。 举例来说 Shanghai is bigger than any city in Taiwan. 上海比台湾任何一个城市都还大。好，那么最后我们来补充片语介系词 outside of 的用法。 outside of 它是指说除了什么什么以外，意思就跟 except 差不多，表示说将什么排除在外，不算在内。那么 outside of 后面可以接的名词可以是人或是事物。举例来说 Nobody knows the truth outside of Ron. 除了 Ron 之外，没有人知道真相。好，那么以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天的单字吧。
Expose. Once the piece of pottery was exposed to air, its paint began flaking off. Altitude. Some people have difficulty breathing at altitudes over 2,500 meters. Impact. The proposed income tax increase will not impact middle-class families. Retreat. The water from the flood finally retreated a week after the storm hit. Conserve. Even if we conserve our oil supply, it will run out eventually. Update. The factory is currently updating its manufacturing process to make it more efficient. Adapt. After moving to a tropical country, Adrian couldn't adapt to the weather.
Discussion Starter starts now!
Here's our discussion starter for today. The question is, what do you think Iceland hoped to accomplish by holding a funeral for a glacier?
By holding a funeral, the organizers intended to stage a wake-up call of sorts. Okayokal is not the largest glacier in the world or a huge ice sheet. It never was, but the loss of it should serve as a wake-up call. People should take notice of this and see how global warming is a real thing that they have to do something about.
Well, I think the organizers hoped to attract attention to this problem, but I think deep down they know that Iceland is a very popular tourist destination. They just wanted to get more tourists to come there and spend their money and pose for selfies in front of this plaque.
Okay, everyone. With that, today's article is now complete. But, as always, we sure hope that you guys have enjoyed reading along with us. Anyways, I'm Jeff.
I am Roger.
See you next time.